This is the Forge Project, a self-development coaching service and community that is dedicated in providing the leadership and guidance to drive improved mental, physical, and energetic well-being for men.
Yeah, Clubhouse is dope. I like that shit.
It's pretty wild out there, huh?
Yeah, it's a lot of craziness. Let me take off this jacket.
Yeah.
Right.
So what did you find that, like, what's your take on dealing with Clubhouse? Because I've got my own experience, like just the person that I am and the way I think. But I caught you in that one room, but what's your take on that situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool. I like it, because there's a lot of different types of people in there, a lot of different perspectives. You know what I'm saying? It's interesting because I feel like it shows a lot more of what a wider variety of people are thinking. Because I think sometimes people get caught in their own bubble, in their own lives, and in their own thinking. So then when you get on that type of thing, you see, okay, this person's thinking this, so I didn't think about that, or I didn't know people actually, looked at life this way. So I think it's good just seeing all those different perspectives. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just found that people who think the way you do, and a couple other guys that I roll with, they're not as readily accepted on Clubhouse.
Oh yeah, definitely not. Definitely.
They're just like, what is this guy thinking? Where is he coming from? And it ruffles a lot of feathers because they don't get it. They don't get where you're coming from.
Right. Oh yeah, that's the thing. I think too, because like it's a lot of people who are on there who are very mainstream and kind of like just adhere to like societal standards and been taught a certain way. So when they hear a whole different like type of philosophy or a type of way of doing things, it's like, oh man, this is crazy. You know what I'm saying? And that's another thing I like about it, because I like to bring a different type of vibe, and I like to see how people react to that and like get them thinking. Because I like to provoke thought. Because I like when I hear things that ruffle my own beliefs. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh man, I never thought about it that way, or I never saw it that way, and then it gives me a different way of like seeing things. You know what I'm saying? But I know a lot of people don't like that because they're they like to stay in their little in their box. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And I go into like a lot of dating rooms because I just like hear people's experiences about dating, and there's this growing belief about how men should behave.
Right.
And on one hand, I think it's pretty good because it is true that society has told men that they're only allowed to have two emotions, either like happiness and anger.
Right.
Or they're only allowed to show those two. Mm-hmm. And so there's this growing, I guess, a movement of get balanced with your emotions, right? Become emotionally intelligent, right? Mm-hmm. But what I'm finding is that there's guys who, and I know you know who I'm talking about, but these guys who are very emotive type guys.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And they've often, for the longest time, felt very weak in society. Now, because of this shift, they're like, now I'm the fucking man, right? and so they're feeling empowered because that's their comfort zone. Mm-hmm. Because there's been this attention shift to grow, like, hey guys, it's okay to understand your emotions better. It's cool, right? Mm-hmm. And but they're way into it on the other side. So they're like feeling very empowered, and they're like, now, oh, I'm the fucking man now. Mm. And I sometimes bring these guys aside and like, well, so how's your dating life been?
Right.
And
right.
Exactly.
You're like, okay. Nobody wants to actually get into the reality of it. That's the thing that I notice, is that people are very surface level with a lot of stuff because they want to present a certain character to society. But then when it comes down to the nitty gritty behind closed doors, when it's just, this person and that person with each other, then it's kind of like, okay, what's really going on behind the scenes? Like, are you really getting what you want in the situation? Even with a lot of women that'll talk, well, they'll be like, oh, I'm like this and I want this, and I approach it this way. And I'm like, well, are you getting the relationship you want. And most of the time it's no, you know, because everyone's kind of just like, you know, saying what they want as far as a fantasy, but they're not grounded in reality or what it takes to get what they want in reality. It's weird. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. Like I've been seeing that a lot with girls too. And everything kind of comes to a head when you're in front of somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's, you know, dudes will have a great attitude outside of being in front of a woman, but it's like if there's just something magical about it that when you're in front of a woman, all of that can get tested. And a lot of it will.
Right.
Either just by the nature of the interaction, or she will deliberately test you to see where you stand. And it's just funny, like it's just a lot of guys who don't get that dichotomy that's going on. And they say, why is she being like this? Why is she being like that? It's like, well, because there's something about you that's being questionable.
Right.
So she's poking it, you know, to see if you'll pop.
Like, you're right. She's trying to see who you really are, but underneath all the BS facade that you're trying to put up. You know?
Yeah. So, but you're married, right?
Yeah. So
how long you been married?
We've been married for 7 years. We've been together for 14 years. Yeah.
14 years. All right. Yeah. So quite a while. And so that testing doesn't go away, does it?
Oh, no, it's always there. But it's just the nature of you know, relationships. You know what I mean? I think that's always a thing. You know what I mean? Because also, like, I'm not monogamous. Also, I have a girlfriend too, and you know, it's just, I think, it's like for women, they want a constant reminder that you are the man you present yourself to be. You know what I'm saying? So that it's kind of like they want to see if it's real. So if they look at you as like a guy who's a high valuable type of guy and the guy who's on point, sometimes they can't believe that they're with a guy like you. So then even with that thought process is like, okay, I gotta see if this is real. Like, it's almost like I gotta pinch myself to see it's real, you know? And then if you aren't that guy, right, they'll see that usually really quickly. And then this is why certain guys have a hard time keeping and maintaining a woman, is because once she does sort of does what she does to sort of see it, then she's like, yeah, this guy's not really who he pretends to be. And then she kind of loses interest and is like, all right, I'm done.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and that's kind of the fault that a lot of guys fall into, I think, where they will do what's necessary to complete the objective.
Right.
And then they get lazy. They get real comfortable. Like, I think one of the biggest poisons a guy can ingest is comfort.
Oh, yeah.
Because that can like just get into and seep into all aspects of your life. And then she starts looking at you sideways like, man, who is this motherfucker? Right. You know? He's got soft all over the place, his body, his mind, his spirit. It's like, you know, so yeah, I mean, and then there's the other thing you mentioned, like how it's seen in her, because I think that there's also the social aspect of it, because who she chooses represents her and the value of her choices.
Right.
So,
exactly.
So it's like, and so it says, I made a good choice or I made a terrible choice. And nobody wants to walk around making a terrible choice on their arm.
Exactly. That is true.
Like getting a tattoo that's spelled wrong.
Right.
And you're like, fuck, how was that dummy? Yeah. So, I mean, I think guys got to really understand that you can't ever get soft, or can't get too soft and too comfortable, too lazy, because it will really screw shit up, you know? And like, I work with a lot of guys who are either in divorce or about to come into divorce. And that's all pretty much what it is they got soft, they lost control of their ship, and just it went drifting off who knows where. Right. You know? Yeah. And then their wife picks up the wheel because somebody's got to steer it. And they're cussing under their breath, like, fucking motherfucking shit. Right. Piece of shit. You know, well, like Elmer Fudd, you know? Right. and you know, doesn't like to do that. Well, the guy's got his feet kicked up and drinking and eating, getting fat. So, yeah. So I was looking at your Bad Boy membership. So And so you got this website, badboymembership.com.
Right.
And, you got like you offer a lot of solutions to like, I think what is like common issues. And I'm thinking, what's like one of the biggest things that guys come to you with? Like, because I know like there's a lot of big ones, approach anxiety or being able to satisfy in the bedroom or something like that. But like, what do you think is like the most, common and most heavy issue that these guys have?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is the fear of rejection. And also there's an underlying thing of where guys don't realize or they don't realize until they really take it seriously. They don't realize the amount of work that they have to put in order to make things happen. So I always look at it like, always say like how if you were to go to the gym or whatever, if you're overweight and you're trying to lose weight and let's say get a 6-pack or something like that, if you're trying to, let's say if you're a certain amount of weight overweight, you're trying to get a 6-pack, it may take you a year to get that 6-pack, but it has to be consistent work on working out, eating and stuff like that to get that 6-pack. So it's the same thing with game and learning to be attractive to women and being that type of guy, is that you have guys that come in where they're virgins or they've never approached a woman in their life, or they're just scared of rejection, or they might have had some situations where things are going well, but they're not really immersed in it to where it's become part of their lifestyle. So then it's going from that to realizing they have to actually put in the amount of work they need to put in order to get to that next level. So I think the main thing is them coming to the realization of the amount of work that has to be put in on so many different levels. So that could just be, for example, a guy might just have trouble like approaching women, for example, right? And then it's like, okay, damn, I gotta get over my fear of rejection. Then I also have to put in a lot of work to approach a number of different women because it's a numbers game. Then once I do approach them, and let's say I'm getting some numbers, I'm getting some type of dates here, how do I maintain that? How do I turn that into sex? How do I keep it going if I like a girl? So it's all these different things that happen on their journey that they keep realizing, man, I actually have to like work on this. It wasn't like a 1-2 thing I thought it was going to be, when I came into this. So I think that's and that's kind of like the reason why I even have a membership thing, is that it's consistent. So it's like, it's constant things where you're constantly learning to implement into what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? So, because there's so many things that guys don't think about or know about until they're actually in the situation. You know what I'm saying? And so that's the thing, is that once you get into the situation, there's other things you didn't know that was even a thing you needed to know, but you would have never known it until you got to this point. So there's like different like levels that I try to tell guys to realize when it comes to this. Because it's one thing to meet a girl at a bar and hook up with her in the bathroom somewhere if you wanted to do that. But then there's another thing if you meet a girl you actually are really interested in and want to maintain that type of situation, to have a girlfriend or to have something, long-term or whatever. So it's like two different worlds in that situation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And even in that small bubble, right? So they see that small interaction of some guy pulls some chick and they're in the back, private VIP room making out, or, some bathroom situation or whatever. There's a complete misunderstanding that does not exist in a vacuum. There was so much that led up to that, both internally within him and externally in that situation, from like very subtle things to coarse things, and be able to read situation and to adjust accordingly. And I can imagine that once you explain it to some of these guys, they can get very daunted. By them. So it comes down to like, do you really want this? Like, how much do you want this change?
Right. Exactly.
So you got guys who just duck out. They're just like, nah, I'll just stick with my hand.
Oh yeah. That always happens. You have some guys who, because they didn't realize that it's work that has to be done, they're just like, man, I didn't realize I'd do all this. And then there's some guys who, where they're like, okay, they're up for the challenge and then they make it happen. But it's one of those things where I always tell people there's really no shortcuts. What I find funny about this is that it correlates to a lot of other things in life. Like any other thing in life, you know, if you go to college or something, you got to grind it out for like 4 years to get that degree or something like that. If you're trying to get fit and lose weight, that's something that you have to change your eating habits. You got to work out. It's like, you know, if you're raising a kid, you got to, you know, the kid's a baby, then, you know what I mean? It even takes 9 months for the kid to be, you know what I mean? Like it takes time for everything. But when it comes to dating, when it comes to interacting with women, it's like, oh, I just want it to happen tomorrow, even though I've never talked to a woman before in my life and I'm insecure and I'm scared to approach women. I just want it to happen in a weekend. And it's like, it's not gonna happen for you, because it's not only is it where you're, you know, interacting with, you know, someone else, which is what makes it different than a lot of other things, but also that internal struggle you have to take action. That's something that people have to work on too. Because I remember I was watching, I forgot who the guy was, but he said something, he's a coach, and he said that, you know, learning dating, you know, and picking up skills is easy. He said the hard part is that a lot of guys are basically, to put it lack of a better term, like they're socially, you know, slow. Like they don't know how to read social cues. Like their social intelligence is off. You understand what I'm saying? So a lot of times you're saying that there's guys that have to work on that, you know, overall. And if they had that worked on, everything else would be easy to fall into place. You know what I'm saying? But it's like you have a lot of guys who just their social intelligence, meaning like they can be talking to anyone, man or woman, whoever, and they don't really notice if this person's uncomfortable. They don't notice if this person wants to keep talking. They don't notice if this person, you know, they don't know what's going on, but they're just there saying things and doing things. And it's like, they're not really feeling the vibe, feeling the room, feeling the energy. And so a lot of guys don't really have that sort of awareness, and that hurts them at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
So like, despite what you teach them, it's not going to do much for them if they're still too much up in their head.
Exactly.
And only viewing it from their perspective and thinking to themselves, okay, what do I say now? Okay.
Right.
Everything I say.
Right. It's terrible.
And there's no flow. There's no flow at all. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And, you know, these, I find that this is a real common thing, because these dudes, they kind of grow up in this immediacy culture, right? I mean, I don't know how old you are, but I'm 43 years old. So I understand from a different time period when getting with a woman does take time, getting those skills developed and getting that level of comfort. It takes time, right? There was nothing when I was coming up that was immediate. Not a single thing was immediate, like maybe fast food. Right. And even then you had to wait, right? Like that was like, whoa, fast food, right? So it's like, but now you could get dates, you could get a ride, you could get food delivered to you, you got your movies, right? It's like when it was a movie, I had to wait for the preview to come out on TV, and the preview would be mad, like ambiguous. You'd be like, what the hell's that? Now they tell you everything that's in the movie in just one ad, one trailer. You're like, I saw the movie, I get it. But it was like really, really ambiguous. You didn't know what's going on. Then you had to like wait online, wait for it to come out, go to the mall, right? Wait online, get your ticket, pay in cash, and then wait to find your seat, wait to get your refresh. It's like everything was like waiting and developing. And so now it's like bing, 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 all these things with this condition of like entertainment, all your needs, everything. It's all this one shot. And they're getting conditioned to thinking, oh, well, you know, I could just get girls like that. And then the added thing of porn, where they're just like, oh, and then the reality is like, wait a second, so girls just don't hop on your dick like that?
Right. Exactly. It's weird. Yeah. I'm gonna be 40 next month, actually. Yeah, so I've been, you know, I've seen like how a lot of these things just changed. It's like weird, you know, because I think with what's weird is funny is that a lot of guys, this is what I hear all the time. They'll say, it was like, oh, you know, social media changed the game. It's different now. And I'm like, it's not really different. The only difference is there's access. There's more access. Like you have easier access to women and just everything in general than you've had before. But the actual game of man gets woman, woman gets man, it's still the same, meaning that you still need to be in a situation where you meet somebody, you're talking to somebody, even if it's online. You know, you can meet someone on Instagram, even Clubhouse. I heard people meet on Clubhouse.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, or Tinder, or whatever it is. You still have to have, you know, some sort of skill to have a conversation to the point where you can get a woman to want to actually meet you offline. And you know what I'm saying? Like all of those things still apply. It's just that the access is different as to where before, when there wasn't social media and all of this YouTube and Instagram stuff, when that wasn't around, you'd have to like go out to a party or go out to an event to meet somebody. Mm-hmm. But you still have to, you know, the same people you would meet is the same people that's online now. So it's not that it changed. And a lot of guys, what they'll say is they'll say that it changed because since women have more attention, like a girl could go on Instagram and, you know, be like a, you know, Instagram model or just look good or whatever, and get a lot of guys that'll hit her up or DM her or whatever. And I said, and I was basically trying to explain to these guys that even though women have a lot more attention, it still doesn't necessarily make a difference, because she's only going to get with or do something with the guy or guys she's attracted to anyway. So if you're the guy she's attracted to, it's going to happen. If you're the guy she's not attracted to, it's not going to happen. It would be the same thing if you were at a party. If you had a party and she wasn't attracted to you, you still wouldn't get her. You know what I'm saying? If she was at a party and she was attracted to you, you would get her. So the medium doesn't necessarily matter, because women are still getting with who they want to get with. And I said, and guys are getting with women that they want to get with, or women that they're trying to go after. And if they have game, they're able to pull that girl. So it's not the actual social media that's changing it. The only thing that changed is the access. And if anything, social media and dating apps and stuff made it easier because you have more access. You know what I'm saying? Right. So it's crazy.
I was just going to say how they're not seeing the other side of that and reframing it in their minds as something positive.
Right.
I think now you have, like, think about it. It's like, okay, you live in a small town, mm-hmm. and maybe there's one attractive or two attractive women in your town. Right. Now you have access to thousands.
Exactly. Right.
Right. So I think when people say that, when guys say that, I think they're creating like a sour grapes sort of situation. Mm-hmm. That I think they're coming up with reasons why they shouldn't, or like just justifying logical reasons to them why they shouldn't do what they need to do.
Right.
It's saying justifying, oh, well, I can't do that because there's so many people, or that guy's some kind of, or that lady is a thought, so I'm not even going to bother with her. Right.
You know, it's funny. It's like, to me, it's so much easier because like you said, if you're living in a small town, you could literally go on Tinder or any of these sites and set your location for, let's say, the next city or the next few towns down. And you can match with girls there, talk to them, and then set up some dates. And you can get an Airbnb for the weekend in another town, go hang out there and have dates like lined up for that weekend and interact with girls there. So it's like, and that's all coming from your phone. You don't have to travel anywhere to set that up or do anything. So it's like before that, you'd have to settle for whoever was in your area. And if that was the case, then you'd be shit out of luck. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So they need to use that to their advantage. I'm like, it's crazy because every time when I went to like another, like if I would go to my business partner used to live in Florida. So there were times I would go out to visit him, and before I get to Florida, I set my Tinder to Florida like a week before I'm going there, and I'd match with some girls. Hey, I'm gonna be out there from this day to this day. As soon as I get out there, I got like 3 or 4 girls that's ready to meet up. You know what I'm saying? So any guy could do that. You know what I mean?
And I think that jumps right back into what you were saying about doing work, right? Because if you say, all right, if you got a small town with not many people in there, go travel. Go get an Airbnb for an extended weekend, get a bus or a train or whatever if you don't have a car, and set up, and then get the paid Tinder thing so you can change your location and see if you can set some stuff up. Right. And I think to some guys, they'd be like, oh man, that sounds like a lot of work. That sounds like a lot of expense, right? But that's what it takes sometimes if you really are in that situation where you have little options. You have to put in some kind of extra work.
Yeah, because I was this was like maybe 2 years ago. I was in Texas. I mean, my business partner, because we were shooting a documentary out there. So we get to Texas, and before we got there, I was on my app on Tinder, and I must have matched with like I think like 50 women out there, and we was only going to be there for I think like 3 days. So we got the Airbnb. I'm matched with these girls, and then the funny part was I didn't meet any of those women. Like I was talking to them. There was like 1 or 2 girls that I was going to come through, but then something happened where they couldn't, whatever. So me and my business partner was like, yo, let's go out to like a place. So we went to this like bar, like club lounge type of thing. We go out to there. We meet some women there. We met these 2 girls there. They came back to our spot, and we did our thing. But the point is that I put in all that work on Tinder, and then nothing happened. And then I was like, okay, well, let me go put in some more work into out there in the streets. You know what I'm saying? So all of this stuff, but it's like, that's how you get it. That's how you make it happen. You know what I'm saying? And so a lot of times guys aren't willing to do the work it takes to make it go down. And truthfully, a lot of women aren't willing to do the work. This is why you have so many single women, but no one really wants to do the work it takes. And I think what happens is that media and movies, books have conditioned our mind to think that dating, romance, or whatever, or this type of stuff is just supposed to happen. You know what I mean? So and whenever you see a movie, it's like, oh, we just bumped into each other at the coffee shop and it was magic, and it was great. So everyone's thinking that it's just going to happen that way, and I'm like, it's not. You know what I mean? Like, you really got to put in, like, it's like anything else. You got to put in the work, or your results are going to be slim. Now, there are times where once in a blue moon where things do happen like that, but that's more of like, that's like winning the lottery. Like that's like, for most people, that's not going to happen, where they just magically like bump into somebody and then they, hit it off and it's like awesome. And you know what I mean? Like that's rare in most cases. Most of the time, it's like the work has to be put in. And the reason why people got to understand the work has to be put in is because most people you meet they're not going to be compatible with you. And I think people forget that there's so many different levels of compatibility. So I tell people that not only do you have to be compatible in how y'all interact as far as personality wise, like I gotta like your personality, you gotta like my personality, you gotta like how we interact, and there has to be some sort of chemistry. Not only that, but we have to see if there's sexual chemistry. Mm-hmm. And people don't even think about sexual chemistry, where there's a lot of layers to sexual chemistry, because you have to see if you actually like a person's technique sexually, but also you have to see if you like how a person feels sexually. And a lot of people don't even think about that part. I think that's something that's not talked about a lot. I hardly hear people talk about this, meaning like you have to know it, you have to see if you like the person's touch, which is why I always find it funny when people say, oh, we're going to just wait for a long time before we have sex. And I'm like, that's not necessarily the case, because if I wait a long time to have sex with you, I can think you're an amazing woman and you can think I'm awesome. But if the sex doesn't work, we're like, damn, we just, and then sometimes people like to force it to work, or sort of, they'll just bypass it. They're like, well, it's okay, but I'll deal with it. And then they settle for someone they're not sexually compatible with. And this is a lot of times where it's easier for people to cheat. This is why a lot of times where people are in relationships, there's not as much sex going on. Some people will say, oh, well, they have a low sex drive now. Some people do, but some people aren't really that attracted to the person that they're with sexually. But because of other things, because they don't want to be lonely, they just want to have somebody to call boyfriend or girlfriend, they'll stick with them. But they're not really sexually compatible. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy.
Well, that leads me to a question. What's your preference? Would you rather have somebody come in who knows exactly what they're doing, or do you prefer to teach?
Well, it's interesting because I think that if I meet a woman and she's just so on point, right? I think there's still certain things I would need to teach her, because I still would need her to
right. For you individually. Right. Yes, I understand that. But you see what I'm saying? Like in a bigger, like, okay, experienced, right? Versus having to generally teach.
Right. Yeah, I would definitely like more experience, because then it's less work for me. And it's less work for, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's interesting that you brought that up. I was actually talking about this to someone the other day. Because so me and my wife, we're non-monogamous. So that means that, I can date other women, she can date other guys, right? And what I've noticed is certain guys that she'll date, like she was dating this dude, and the dude, he liked her a lot. But then they stopped seeing each other because he couldn't get over the fact that, you know, she's with me. So he couldn't like deal with the non-monogamous situation. But he was like, oh man, you know, she would be the perfect girlfriend, right? Now he could have her as a girlfriend if he wanted to. That's just how things are. Because I got a girlfriend too. He could be your boyfriend if you want to, whatever. But one of the main reasons why he and I was talking to my wife about this, and this happened more than once with her, where you had guys that was really liking her. And I said, the reason why these guys like you so much is because you're experienced in being in a relationship with a man, which is me. So meaning they're
benefiting from the work that you did.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? That's exactly what's happening.
And they're not realizing, because if they knew who you were, they would be like, damn, like I had they have this woman here who, yes, came in with her own knowledge, but was also groomed by somebody who knows what they're doing. Right. And I don't have to do any work. I get to benefit from that.
Right. Exactly.
So he just missed a golden opportunity.
Right. So she's experienced in being in a relationship. So she you see what I'm saying? So they're benefiting off of that. So that's what happens a lot of times where, you know, and this is why it's hard for a lot of other people to actually be in relationships, is because you have a lot of inexperienced people dating other inexperienced people. Or you might have an experienced person dating an inexperienced person, and that inexperienced person is just all over the place, so it's not going to work with that other person. So it's interesting how, and what I noticed too is that even my girlfriend now, who she was married for, I think like 16 or 17 years or something like that. Mm. And so it was like, I think it was between like 14 and 17 years. And what I noticed when I first started dating her, I was like, man, she's like so on point. But the reason why she's so on point, or part of it, is because she was with a man for 17 years. You know what I'm saying? So, so it's like the more experienced the person is, the easier it is to be in that relationship with them, because they know how to relate to you, because they have experience relating to another person. Versus when a person hasn't had that, you understand? It's harder for that person a lot of times, because they've never known what it's like to be in that type of relationship. Because a lot of I tell people, being in a long-term relationship, you got to learn tolerance, sacrifice, patience. You know what I mean? Like all these on both ends, all these things happen for it to flourish. And when a person's just been single and they're looking for a long-term relationship, most people, they're looking for somebody else to be everything to them, but they can just be the same. Like I can just be my inconsistent, flighty, weird, flaky self, but I want somebody here for me to be perfect for me. And I'm like, it doesn't work that way. And that's why it never works. They don't realize they have to be what they're looking for. You understand what I'm saying? In order for it to work. You know what I mean? It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, man. And see, like I've experienced both, and I see the pluses and minuses, the experience for teaching. And so I'm currently in like a situation where I'm doing more teaching. Mm-hmm. And I'm perfectly fine with that, because what I've learned is that, at least in my experience, is that the more experienced person also comes, like there's a reason why that's there.
Right.
And there's there's that phrase, like have a woman having that 1,000 cock stare.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so it has its benefits, but it comes at a cost.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So it's like that guy who spends a lifetime on steroids, right? And like the designer ones, not just testosterone, but they're massive, right? But it's like you look at their organs, like came with a cost, buddy. Your kidneys are like going to be on life support soon. So it's kind of like that. It's got all the tricks and the mastery and the complete understanding, but socially, you know what I mean? And then like I was getting continual arguments with like previous boyfriends or baby daddies, and I'm just like, you know what? I'll take somebody who lost their virginity a few years ago and has no scarring and has a great relationship with their dad, and and may not know stuff, right? So you just got to have more patience with it, right? So I'd say, like, for dudes who just want to get out there and like smash a lot of girls, find somebody who's more experienced. But for me, in a relationship, I like the idea of being able to teach, and I don't know, I just like that teacher student sort of relationship that goes on.
Right. Right. Because the thing is, the more experienced the woman is, the more well, it depends. It depends on what she's experiencing. So the more experienced the woman is in, like, as far as like a relationship is concerned, I think that is gonna be a little bit easier for a guy to acclimate as far as a relationship is concerned, because she's been used to knowing how to treat a guy. You understand what I'm saying? Now, if a woman is just experienced sexually though, and a guy wants to be in a relationship with her and just to be monogamous, then his game has to be super on point in order to maintain that, or to keep that, to keep that going. You see what I'm saying? Because I think what a lot of guys don't understand is that when the more experienced the woman is sexually, right? This is what guys think. Because I hear this a lot in like red pill circles, whatever. They're like, oh, if a woman has a lot of sex, she can't bond with a guy. It's not necessarily that she can't bond with the guy. What happens is that the more sexual experiences a woman had, that means the more guys she's been with. The more guys she's been with, that means the more experience dealing with a man's energy she's been with. So let's say, for example, a lot of times what happens too is that not all the men, but there are a portion of the guys that she's dealt with that can make her feel like she can't trust guys, because she's like, man, I want a boyfriend, but these guys just keep coming through and they leave me. They keep coming through and they leave me. They keep coming through. So now she don't trust you now, because you're just another guy who's probably going to come through and leave her. So now there's that resistance there. Now, if you're a guy who wanted a long-term relationship with that particular woman, and your game was on point to where you're able to manage and maintain that situation, and you would have to also teach her how to be in that relationship with you, that takes a lot of energy but that certain guys don't have or don't even want to bother to deal with. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So that's another thing where, like they have the saying, you can't turn a hoe into a housewife. You know what I mean? That's a saying a lot of guys say, but I always look at it like this. It's not that you can't turn a hoe into a housewife. It's just that it takes more effort, time, and energy to turn a hoe into a housewife, which is what a lot of guys don't want to do. You know what I'm saying? That's the
for me, it's easier the other way around. It still requires a lot of effort and attention and time, but they're taking the housewife and turning it into the hoe.
Right.
And because there's just something magical about watching somebody open up to get to certain levels, not only in understanding of what to do in a relationship, but also in the bedroom, where they're like, and you see those light bulbs turn on, and they're feeling things in themselves that they've never even felt before. And they're like, yeah, like that's you. There you are, outside of your social constructs of how you're limited to be, right? And they're like, oh, and especially, and I want to bring this home, especially if you're not judging, right? Because so, I mean, you're familiar with this. So many guys, they judge women like crazy out there.
Right.
And so it's really an oxymoron, because they judge them for being, quote unquote hoes, but then that's what they want.
Right, exactly. I was just thinking about this earlier. I was like, it's so funny where they're like, I don't want a woman that's out here sleeping around, but then it's like every guy wants to be sleeping around. So I'm like, you're sleeping with somebody, right? You're sleeping with somebody's woman. So I don't understand how you're going to have both. You can't have it both ways, Well,
because they're watching too much porn. I think that's what sex is like. So I don't want a girl out on the streets, but I want them to have as much experience as, whatever sort of star that they're addicted to.
Right.
Well, how do you think that's going to happen? From teaching by you?
Right. Exactly.
Where you don't know what you're doing? So how's she going to get there?
Exactly.
you know?
So true.
It's going to take an experienced person. Like I was interviewing Eric Everhard, the porn star for a long time, and he was talking about Lamborghinis, and he's like, you could take this Lamborghini and it's got all the performance in the world, and his mindset is like, you got to drive a woman like a Lamborghini, right? But you could take a janitor and put it behind the wheel of Lamborghini, and he's just going to drive it like a regular car,
right.
But you put a pro racer behind there who knows what they're doing, it'll take that car to its limits and sometimes beyond.
Facts.
And he's like, well, women are like that. Like you can take them to limits that they aren't even aware of. but it's because it was janitors, right?
Right.
Or at least just people. No offense to janitors. It's a fine profession if you're a janitor, but it's just people who don't know what they're doing. And then that leaves the woman thinking that's all I'm aware of, or at least just has them wanting, like, is this all there is?
Right.
And that's kind of the problem, I think, then, when having experience with a guy who knows what they're doing, because then they're like, oh shit, because then the realization that it's rare.
Exactly.
And then they're like, oh fuck, that's why I'm in competition. Right. And it's like, well, that's what you got to deal with, like the girl that I'm with, she had a tough time with the understanding that she was, although in the the lead group, right, that there was other people involved.
Right.
And it's like, well, what did you expect? Like you're just sitting around waiting for you.
Right. Exactly.
It doesn't work that way. This, again, like what you were saying, like, it's not like it is in the movies. This is reality here.
Right.
It's like just bursting bubbles. It's like, well, hey, and I want her to stick around, but ultimately it's her choice.
Right.
It's like, I totally get it. Like, it's not for everybody. They want just one person and that's it. And it's like, well, the guys who are in that level, they're not going to be as interesting.
Right.
Sorry.
Exactly. It's weird, and it's funny because, like, I think I was in one of these clubhouse rooms the other day, and they had this room where these women were talking about getting a guy to commit to them without, they're like, don't have sex until he gives you commitment or something like that. And I was just like, it's funny because these women, they don't realize that they're going to attract, like, weak guys who are unattractive. Like, those are the only type of guys who are going to sit around and wait or give you a commitment first before they have. It's like, I'm like, that's just weird. I'm like, I don't understand how they don't really, like, it's weird because it's like, I'm like, either they don't realize that or they realize it and they're just accepting it, that they're looking for those type of guys. You know what I'm saying? So it's crazy.
I think that comes from girls who just been blown out a lot.
Right.
And just been loved and lost a lot. And they led with their sexuality.
Right.
Because they were programmed, I think, in the wrong way, that they have this item that can be sold.
Right.
And then some time goes by of selling it, and it makes them feel like a commodity. And they're like, fuck, I don't want to feel like this about myself. Right. So I'm going to just hold back on this commodity because I'm running out of time. Yeah. And I'm going to see who's going to jump on me without this golden goose that I can hold out in front of them. And it's not going to work. It's like both tactics are not going to work. Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, man. There's a lot of unhappy. Like, I get into rooms sometimes with, like, girls who kind of were sold that narrative of be that successful person and so on, and you can have it all sort of mentality.
Right.
And it was really great. So there was this lady, she's a psychotherapist, and she was asking questions, but I knew she was taking notes for a study that she's developing. And she was asking, it was all guys that were allowed to speak. No women were allowed to speak. And she's like, listen up, ladies. All right. And there was a bunch of guys on there, like, really, like, high value sort of guys. They were fit. They were on top of their point. Like, they had a great business, or they worked for another company, but they were making really good money. They traveled. They were just well-rounded. Okay. Not emotionally stunted. They just knew who they were through and through. And she's like, list the top priorities. Right. And it was like femininity, personal drive and success, conflict resolution. There was a couple other things. All right. And amongst, I think, maybe like 10 guys who were answering, their number one was femininity. Right. And the last chosen priority was success.
Right.
And all these women were sitting there scratching their heads going, wait, so, they're like, but I'm doing this PhD thing for me. And it's like, but you're spending so much time doing that. that you're losing out. Like, sure, you know what, you want to do that while you're on the university, use that time to meet guys. But what a lot of them are doing, they're just like hammering and focusing because they're like, I got to do this for, I don't know, whatever sort of narrative they were fed. And they're coming out and they're like, okay, I'm done. I got my 10 degrees. I'm doing this. I got my house. I got this. I got that. And it's like, well, where's the dates now? Because now I want, it's like, you took the program that guys have been doing. Right. But there's a problem. You don't control commitment.
Exactly.
Right.
It's like, and then it's like they get to that point where they're like, yo, like, why aren't any of you guys like stepping up and being with me? And I'm like, because you're not doing anything that's attractive to the guy to want to do that. Exactly. And it's like outside of all that other success stuff, like that's cool and that's a bonus if a guy cares about that. But I'm like, it's so weird how, and again, a lot of women have been fed that lie that, oh, if I have this and I have that, then I'm going to be more attractive to men. Whereas you could have a woman working at McDonald's and she'll get more guys that want her to be with than the lady with the PhD. They don't care about that, you know.
No, they're like, you know, where's my milkshake with those fries?
Right.
Yeah, they don't care. They're not like, damn, baby, your diploma is so hot.
You're right. Exactly.
They don't care. I mean, there might be some here and there, but I don't think I've ever come across a dude who is like, I need to have a woman who's accomplished, right?
Right. Exactly.
Taking care of yourself enough, sure. You know what I mean? But, you know, they're coming at it like, I think, really backwards. And what's happening is like, I've got a number of friends who I guess would consider themselves alpha females. If you would just want to put a term on it, I really don't even think that exists, but
me neither.
But just so you can understand who I'm talking like high rollers. They, you know, driving like fancy cars. They're up there in like the top-notch board meetings or whatever, or they run their own companies. And they're coming to these understandings like, oh shit, I spent all this time and energy, money, effort to get to these positions so I can feel empowered. And I'm lonely as fuck. And now I'm 40 some years old. And what? Like, none of this has been attractive. None of this has brought guys in except the ones I don't want.
Right. Exactly. It's like, it's so sad because I'm just like, man, like, and you would think after all this time, and this is what I like about Clubhouse too, because at least there'll be some type of, you know, a group of people that like a group of men are telling them, hey, listen, this isn't it. You know what I mean? You would hope that they would listen to it, but it's just like, it's weird because I think a lot of times too, and this goes for men and women, is that nobody wants to do the thing that the other, you know, side wants or needs in order for that person to want them. So like, you're like, okay, ladies, you got to be, you know, these guys might want you to cook and clean and, you know, be submissive, take care of the kids, you know, like that type of stuff. And they're like, oh, but I don't want to do any of that. You know, you tell guys, hey, listen, guys, you're going to have to like be more, you know, more assertive, approach these women. Oh, I don't want to get rejected. Like nobody wants to do the work that it to get what they need from the opposite end. It's just, nobody wants to do it. You know what I mean? Everybody wants to do their own thing. And then they want everyone else on the other side just to want them. Like, hey, look, I got my degree, so you should just want me. Or the guy's like, hey, I got this going on and ladies should just be on me because I'm a nice guy. And it's like, it doesn't work that way. Like, you got to know what it's like. It's kind of like it would be like a company, like let's say Coca-Cola. Like Coca-Cola knows, hey, I need to present to you to make you want to buy Coca-Cola. I'm not going to just come on a commercial and be like, hey, we're Coca-Cola, come buy us. You know what I mean? Like, they don't care that you're
that used to work a long time ago, right? Like in the 40s, 50s, right? But then something shifted and people realized, because like a long time ago, don't present a product and like, okay, these are our pens. This is what it does. And you can rely on it because it's well made. And that was the ad. Now they have to inject emotions. And they're like, this pen is going to make you feel so sexy.
Right.
You know? And so they had to adjust and make people feel in order to buy.
Right.
And I think that's how it was with people too. A long time ago, they're just like, hey, you know what? I'm healthy. I got a good job. And that was enough.
Right.
I can produce good offspring and I can take care of them. And that was it. And now it's more more involved, I think, in eliciting certain feelings.
Right.
And the problem is a lot of dudes can fake that stuff.
Right.
They
Exactly.
learned how to fake the feeling. And then they got a lot of unhappy women out there being like, damn, I was fooled again.
Exactly right. And you know what it is too? I think sometimes the women go along with it, and when they're fooled, it's like I think sometimes they know they're being fooled, but they hope they're not being fooled. They're like, yeah, he's on some bullshit. Let me ride this out a little bit just in case he's not. But then they're like, fuck, I knew it. He was on some bullshit. You know,
it felt good in the moment.
Exactly. Right. Right. You know, so it's crazy.
So do you have like, you know, with dudes that you work with, do you ever like turn anybody away who's just like, they're in it like just to smash? Because like I turn dudes away who I know they just want to be like that, because I know that it leaves a wake of damaged women, right? Because they're just adding to the numbers of women who are just pissed off at dudes who just use them. And then for decent guys, right, for like good men, they're now having to like deal with bullshit that other people have created. So I know, like, I could sense out some dudes and be like, nah, man, you got some psychotic nonsense going on. I'm not going to talk to you about how to get women. Like, you're just going to take that psychotic mess and make it look good, you know? So you like turn everybody away from like the work that you do?
No. So the thing is, the only time I don't really rock with a certain person is if they're trying to be deceptive. So like if a guy wants to hook up with a bunch of girls and that's it, I could work with him, but I tell him to let the women know that's what he's doing. So basically she's a willing participant in the actual interaction, meaning like she knows this is all he wants. So it's not like he's going up to her saying, yo, girl, I want to be with you forever. And I like you like that. And I think we should have babies. And I'm trying to have you as my girlfriend. And then he has sex with her and then calls it a day. Like, I don't condone any of that. I tell guys, hey, listen, if you're into casual sex, if you're into just hooking up, when you're interacting with these girls, tell them like, hey, listen, you know, I just want to hook up with you a few times. I want to have some fun. I just want to have some casual sex. I just want to, you know, I'm not trying to be your boyfriend. I'm not trying to date you. So give the woman the opportunity to say yes to that. You see what I'm saying? And then when she says yes to that, then y'all do your thing. And then you go your separate ways after that. So I'll teach them in that manner. But as far as like them being lying and manipulative and all that, I don't think on either end for men or women, I don't think that's a good thing for anybody to do, because it does create an atmosphere where people start to become even more jaded. And then that causes the situation to just like I was saying earlier, where if a woman's dealt with a lot of guys, there's certain guys who were lying and who were manipulative. So when you meet her, it's harder to connect with her because of what the other guys did. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So, right. But if it's a thing where the woman's willing to do it, then that's cool, because sometimes the women just want to do it too. So if you're dealing with her and you say, hey, look, I'm just trying to hook up, and she's like, cool, and y'all hook up and that's it, and then it's all good. You know what I'm saying? But if you know the girl is like, oh, you know, you know, you can, and a lot of guys, they know either the girl verbally say it, or you can tell based off of how her actions is with you, where she's like, hey, you know, I want to take it slow. I'm not really that type of girl, yada, yada, yada. And some guys, what they'll do is that they'll pretend to be the guy she wants, have sex with her, and then never call her again. Yeah. And I think that's corny. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, you know, so I don't really condone that. So yeah, if a guy's trying to like, you know, like manipulate his way into the pants, I don't really teach that type of stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you brought up a good point where sometimes when I think a girl says that, she's actually also lying to herself. Like, I take things slow, like she's like telling herself stuff because she wants the guy so bad. Like, so I think there's like a lot of self-deception that goes on there too. And also another one where if the guy's up front and she's like, yeah, I like this dude, she'll start telling herself, I can change this dude.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
My box, like they'll like tell themselves like, oh, my box is so good, I'm gonna just change him, right? I can like flip this guy around and then they get upset when he's like, okay, I'm gonna just move on for whatever reason, and she'll get upset,
Right.
even though he said at the onset, hey, I'm only in it for this, right?
Mm.
You're only gonna get that, right? I'm not gonna be your boyfriend, but I'm gonna bring some great energy to your life.
Right.
As you'll get that great energy, think, oh, okay, I can change this guy. And
Mm.
then it doesn't work.
Exactly. Right. And then they're upset that they couldn't change him. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Listen, I gotta ask you, all right, because I ask this a lot of dudes, like, what's your thoughts on these movements, right? Like this, like red pill movements, the MGTOW movements. Like, what are your feelings on that?
Yeah, it's interesting because like I've done shows and I work with some guys that's like, that consider themselves red pill, even some guys that might consider themselves MGTOW and all that. My thing is, and I've also made fun of those guys too, because I just think some of it's ridiculous. But I think that the thing with stuff like MGTOW and even some of the red pill stuff, not all of it, the problem that I have with it a lot of times is that I feel like it creates an environment of men being sort of like having like this crybaby mentality. Because what it is that a lot of the things that, and they've always gotten on me about this, they're like, oh, that's not what it's about. But like, for example, MGTOW, where it stands for men going their own way. And they're like, oh, we're not getting married. We're not living with women. We're not doing this. And then you have some guys who are like, yeah, I still hook up with girls, but I'm not going to do that. But a lot of it stems from, it's like a response to being in situations with women that they didn't like what happened, meaning like, oh, this woman I was with, she divorced me, she fucked me over, she got me for child support, or I was with this one girl and she cheated on me, and like all these different things that they felt that they were wronged by from women, right? So now my thing is that, when I teach, I talk about masculinity and being responsible. So what I say is, if something happened with me and a woman and I didn't like it, like let's say she did something, like let's say she stole my money, or she cheated on me with some other dude, or anything. I always look at it like I take full responsibility for everything. And so what happens is that I'm not blaming her. I'm just learning from the experience and do better next time. You understand what I'm saying? Instead of saying, I swear off of women because women are like this. And I'm like, this is how women will do these things. And then there's also women who won't do those things. There's women, like you said, we were talking about like teaching. A lot of times what happens is the reason why these guys are in these situations with women is because they didn't have enough game to be able to sift through certain women, to vet certain women, to make sure certain women were the type of women they should have been with versus women they shouldn't have been with. Because a lot of guys, truth be told, they ignore red flags because they want vagina, because they want to have sex. They're like, I'm gonna ignore that she's disrespecting me. Oh yeah, she's acting kind of funny. She's acting weird. Out, whatever. And then when stuff hits the fan, then they want to blame the woman. But I'm like, you saw that she was like that from day one, but you didn't. You just ignored it because you were so desperate for sex. So again, whose fault is that? That was your fault for not seeing it. And even if you didn't know, it's still your fault for not knowing. But now that you do know, then just do better. So my thing is that all these things are just a response to, like behaviors or circumstances that men didn't like. Because there was no MGTOW like freaking 10 or 15 years ago. This just started to come out after like the pickup artists and everything came out and all this other stuff. And men were trying to do these things. And then when women were sort of playing the game back to them, then, or women were gaming them in their own way, then it's like, this sort of like energy that came out. So I like the whole, I can get with the aspect of men sort of explaining like certain things women will do, which they would quote unquote call female nature. But I don't like the whole thing of like a man not taking responsibility for his part in the situation and just learning from that and then moving on, instead of like being so caught up in worrying about like what women are doing, because women are going to do what they're going to do regardless. Like nothing you say or do is going to stop women from being how they've been being since the beginning of time. They're just going to be how they are. You know what I'm saying? I'm like,
yeah,
it just what it is,
Yeah, not much changed in that respect. I had my experiences with MGTOW, and what I found is that there's a lot of pain.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these guys are just shouldering tremendous pain, and they're not letting go of it.
Right.
That's a big thing. They're just holding on to the pain. And then you get a bunch of guys getting together, circling about their pain, just kind of mixing up this big churning pot of soup. And it's like almost like they're addicted to it in a sense, because I got in there, I understood the aspect of it, right? And I understood that there's an element of brotherhood, right? Of just kinship, of shared experience. And guys saying, oh, I had this experience, I had this experience. They bounce ideas of each other, but there was no growth out of it. Right. And I'm like, after a while, and I'm just like, well, I don't need this anymore. Like, I get what you're after. I understand it. Cool. But I'm going to go my own way.
Right, exactly. Ironically, I'm going to go my own way from
So I left it. And a lot of those guys stuck around. And I also noticed that there's I guess you call them moguls within those spheres that profit off of pain.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And they want to keep people in these pain states. And it's because if they let them out and they showed them how to heal and how to get past these problems, then they wouldn't be needed anymore.
Right.
Their voice wouldn't be so important. So you're like, oh, fuck these women and so on.
Right.
And because, truth be told, I was in a place of deep pain and I wanted to be like, fuck women and all this stuff. But then as I was healing, I said, you know what? No, I did like, no, fuck women. I want to fuck women. I actually like women. Exactly. They feel good. They smell good. They look good. And they can be fun to spend time with. Why would I want to remove that from my life?
Right. Right.
And it doesn't make any sense.
And it's like every guy knows that women aren't perfect. You know what I'm saying? We're not perfect either. Like everybody, like every guy that deals with women knows there's going to be times where you're in a situation and the girl that you're with, she's annoying you, or this girl that you're with did something that you didn't like. And it was just like, that's just part of the whole thing. So it's like, I felt like, that type of stuff was kind of just like running away from the situation. Like, oh, I'm taking my ball and go home and I don't want to speak. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like, at the end of the day, you being a heterosexual man who you like women, you're going to want to deal with women at some point. So after you're in the corner, you're going to be like, okay, I gotta figure out these women again anyway, because I'm going to go right back to it. Like, I don't think that any type of guy who is honest with himself is going to say that they don't actually want to deal with women. And there were certain guys who I knew that were MGTOW that said, oh yeah, well, we're not swearing all off of women. I still deal with women and everything like that. But again, it was still the mindset of it that was giving them a tough time regardless. You know what I'm saying? So it's like letting go of all it's like, I always tell guys, you got to let go of all of that type of energy, that crap, because you'll never actually really enjoy being with a woman, because in order for you to really have a good relationship with a woman, you have to make sure that you're a man who's focused and who has a certain mindset to be able to manage and maintain the situation with a woman. Because truth be told, a lot of the situations that these guys will get and complain about stems from mismanagement of the relationship in the first place. So I hear a lot of guys, they'll say, oh, well, don't get married or don't do this or don't do that because women are going to do this. And I say, okay, well, what you don't understand about that is that when you are one-on-one with an individual woman and the woman that you're dealing with, you can choose the type of woman that you're dealing with to make sure that the type of woman you're actually in a relationship with, or a long-term relationship with, or even a woman you have kids with, that she is a woman, even though she's still a woman and she has that women tendencies like every other woman. You can say, okay, this woman I'm with is actually rational. You understand? She's not crazy. She's not like all over the place. I can have a conversation with her and she listens to what I say. You see what I mean? And so when you're able to do that, right, and you're able to have that type of relationship with her, right, then you won't necessarily have to worry about that. Because I remember there's a YouTuber named Mr. Channel, and he said something so profound that I was like, yo, this right here is everything. He said women listen to either one or two things, society or their man. right? And he was like, a lot of times what happens is that you might have a woman you're with and she's listening to society, which is why she doesn't listen to you. And so therefore, that's why you lose your woman in these situations, because she doesn't respect you as her leader. She respects society as her leader. So this is why you get fucked over, because society is telling her to do all of those things she's doing to you versus you having more influence over your woman than society does. You see what I'm saying? And that's the issue, where a lot of these red pill guys and some of the like MGTOW guys, society had more influence over their woman than they did. So which is why when it came time to deal with stuff like, let's say, divorce or child support or whatever, that's why they get ran through the ringer, because the woman didn't have respect for her man in the first place. Like I have friends who they've been through divorce, they pay child support or whatever, but they actually have a good relationship with the baby mother, and it's no drama. It's like they're super cordial, everything is cool, everything is chilled. They just broke up for whatever reason, like, you know, the relationship didn't work out, but there's still respect on both sides. And so that's what I try to tell guys is you gotta get to that point where you can have that, but you can't have that if you have all that animosity and anger and frustration towards, you know what I'm saying, something that happened to you in the past with some lady. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Yep. That's actually my situation. Everything is fucking cool as hell. And it's because like I cleaned up my backyard, right? And she cleaned up her backyard. Right. And I was like bitching and like, you gotta do that. No. I was saying that to myself. Say, you gotta clean up that mess in your backyard. Right. You gotta have that self-respect first, and then the respect comes around. And I think to simplify what you were saying and paraphrasing what that other YouTuber was talking about is that she's just not that into you. Right. Exactly. It's that simple. Go back to that. Right. She's really into you. And I was saying, it's like there was this guy, he was complaining on Facebook, you know, one of those like relationship groups. And he was talking about all this stuff that this girl was doing. And I'm just like, dude, it's that simple. She's just not that into you. Right. Because a girl who's into you, she'll break plans with her friends or readjust plans with her friends. She'll try to get out of work early. She'll take time off from work. She'll adjust her study time, because I think there was something like it was a college student or something like that, or she was going to school. She will adjust her study times. The only thing she can't really adjust is probably when tests come up. Okay. Right. That's a priority. But all the things that can be shifted, she will shift to spend time with you if she's that into you. Exactly. If that stuff's not happening, right, then she's just not that into you. It's that simple. And don't take it personally, right? Just examine why. Sure. Don't think that you don't have the Dunning-Kruger effect and think that you're the bee's knees for every single person. You're not. Everybody has things to improve on. So look at the situation objectively. Think to yourself, okay, would I date me? Right. And like, am I dateable? And then look at your things. Like, give yourself a really objective audit. Right. And say, oh, just like a business would, right? You get your business audited by a consultant. They're not going to blow smoke up your ass and say, okay, oh yeah, everything's beautiful. You're doing great. You're doing just fine. It's the buyer's problem why no one's buying your products or services. It's their fault. Exactly. No, they're going to go through with a fine-tooth comb and look at everything from soup to nuts as to why your business isn't doing as well as it could. Right. And that's what you got to do as a man, right? You got to look, where could I improve and fill up all of your different cups and make sure it's just balanced out. And then still, it's not going to suit every woman. You know, that's where those dudes, the LMS dudes, they're like, oh man, if I just have looks, money, and status, then that's gonna be success. No, not. It's because some women will look at you, and if you got no game, or if they just don't like the way you live your life, you could live a fantastic life. And they could just be like, you know what? I don't. That's me, right? Yeah, I'm friends with girls. They could look at a guy who's got game, have looks, money, and status, but say they don't care about Lear jets. They
Right.
don't care that you're running a Fortune 500. They don't care that you're 6 foot with a
Exactly.
six pack and you can talk the pants off of any woman.
Mm-hmm.
They're say hippie girls. They're crunchy. They like to hang out in Sedona,
Mm-hmm.
Mexico, and rub
Right.
crystals and pray to space gods. Like
Right.
it's not going to work for everybody.
Right. Exactly. And that's the thing. They think that is this one type of person that everybody wants, or like they're like, well, if I'm not that guy, then no woman's gonna want me. And I'm like, these guys, they're not living in real life. You know what I'm saying?
No.
They're not living out here in reality.
Yeah, it's this mentality of thinking that there's a solution to work out all problems.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it's like, guys, I'm talking to a dude right now who has serious game. He's got a lot of experience. And at the beginning of this conversation, I was like, does your woman still test you?
Right.
Yes. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
it's just, you have the experience to deal with those effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And they're probably not as frequent, but it still happens because of the nature of relationships, the nature of life. It's not a computer program with ones and zeros that's predictable. It's not going to be perfect where you have like, oh, I figured out the solution that will make my life problem free, that will make women problem free.
Right.
And truth be told, if you weren't tested, it'd probably be kind of boring for you.
Yeah, because all that is doing is just sharpening you as a man. It's like that's what I'm saying. Like, it's both on both sides. Like the stuff we're doing tests women, and the stuff they're doing tests us. And it's a consistent thing to sharpen each other's swords. That's what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's what I'm saying with the work. People don't want to put in that work. You understand what I'm saying? And then that's the thing that makes it hard for them to make something happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you said testing women. I saw that on your website, list of like the things that you can learn by working with you. And so why do you advocate testing women?
Right. Well, the thing is, it's sort of like just I always talk about like vetting women to sort of see what type of woman you're dealing with in relation to what you're looking for. So the thing is like, let's say, for example, and I actually talked about it on Clubhouse too. Like,
I know you caught some heat in that room that I was because they didn't understand. Like, they're like, testing women. Like, how dare he?
Right. Because a lot of women don't think that guys are thinking this way too. That's the funny part. It's like for a guy out there, if you're trying to get with a girl or you want something to happen, you got to figure out what type of man you are and what you want and what you like in a relationship. So then, therefore, you're going to have to test to see if she is that type of girl. Like, for example, there's a guy in one of the other Clubhouse rooms where he was saying that when he'll take a girl out to eat and he's seeing if she's going to put in the tip, you know what I'm saying? Or offer to put in the tip or whatever. You know what I mean? Or like, there's times where I would just test to see how easily a woman would like, follow my direction. So I would go to like, a bar or something like that, or, a place that I would go to meet for a drink or whatever. And I would come in or, and be at the bar and I'd be like, okay, let's move over to this couch real quick and just see how simple, like without, if she's like, see if she's going to like, just do that without having to like, oh, why we got to move there? Why are we doing this? And why are we doing that? You understand? Just to see how comfortable she is with me to follow my directions. And so, but that's important to me. You see what I'm saying? So a guy has to figure out what's important to him and see and test her to see if she's at that level. You see what I'm saying? And if she's not, then it doesn't really make sense for him to continue if that's something important to him. You see what I mean? And so that's how it's a good way to sort of see if this is a woman you want to continue to deal with or not. So you don't waste your time and you don't waste hers. You see what I'm saying? And I feel like women on the other end, I think women already do this, but I would say the same thing to women is that if you're going to decide to be with a guy or interact with a guy or you want to, you're looking at a guy to follow, it's like, see who this guy is. Does he match up with what you're about? Because some women, for example, let's say I meet a girl and she is the type of woman looking for a guy who's, a little bit more masculine, a guy who takes charge, a guy who leads. Just me texting her on Tinder and saying, hey, what's up? meet me at this spot at 6 o'clock on Friday. Just from that, she's like, wow, he makes plans. This is great. I'm liking him already. You feel what I'm saying? Like, because there's a lot of guys who she probably met on this app, or they just talk. They're all over the place. They're not good at, like, planning anything. So she's been looking for that, and she's already getting that. You see what I mean? And it makes her say, oh, I'm going to continue with this guy. Same thing for guys. You got to look at what's important to you. If she's giving you that thing, then you can continue with, you understand what I'm saying? That woman. If it's not, then it's like, why keep it going when you already see that those things that you want aren't really there? You see what I mean?
Yep. And that's not going to be for every woman. Like, so, but if that's how you roll, if you are a man who makes plans, right? And you say, hey, let's meet up at this, let's stop this texting nonsense. Let's just meet up, right? At this place, at this time.
Right.
And she might think, this is a bossy dude, right? And so it's like, again, there's no formula that can be applied. It's really who you are. If you're someone who makes plans, who prioritizes their time, you're going to be like this naturally.
Right, exactly.
But not everyone's going to vibe to that.
Right.
They're going to be like, no, I have a lot of time, and like I might prioritize my time. I don't have a lot of time. I can do this and this, right? And come at you with this sort of energy. And it's like, well, are you going to roll with that? As a dude, right? Maybe that works for you. Maybe it doesn't. But it's like, I think guys gotta, because I know that some people are going to hear you and have heard you on YouTube and so on, and think, okay, I got to be this way to get a woman to follow my program. Right. And it's like, well, no, you're just copying what Locario said.
Right, exactly. Right. You're
not actually figuring out what your program is. You're just copying what you think a program. There is no a program.
Right. It's
There's
like
your program that you know nothing about that you need to figure out.
And that's the reason why a lot of guys actually can't really make connections with certain women, is because they haven't figured out their own program. So the woman is confused, like, what is this guy trying to do? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's even sometimes why dudes mess up when they approach women. Guys approach women and the woman's sitting there like, okay, what does this guy want from me? What is he trying to do? And the guy, he's just rambling and talking about nothing.
Well, no, they do know. They're just confused because he's not being honest.
Right, that too, right.
They know there's sexual interest. So why are you talking about that book she's holding?
Right.
And getting into some conversation about literature. Come on. That's what I asked. I'm like, do you really care about that book? Stop bullshitting. Do you really care? And 9 times out of 10, they're like, no. It's like, so why are you talking about the damn book?
Right.
Talk about why you're really there. Talk about your interest in her.
Right.
It's like she knows why you're stepping. It's like, quit that bullshit.
Right.
Yeah, they get thrown off. It's like it's confusing when a lot of this stuff can be really, really simplified. Working out this kind of game, that kind of game, social circle, and all this indirect stuff. And it's like, man, how much more do you want to complicate things?
Right.
Because you're giving yourself more to deal with. You're giving her more to deal with. And it's more complexity to sift through.
Right.
And it's like, oh, does he like me? Or, oh, does she like me? It's like, fuck, like, why are you making this so complicated, man? Just tell her you're interested and let's go out. She says no, well, she's not interested. And, you got to, I think, also consider, you brought up something interesting. And they're not, like, again, like, there's not any foolproof system. Like, you could have really great game. It doesn't mean you're never going to get blown out.
Exactly. Right. And that's what a lot of guys are looking for. They're looking for, like, the cheat code. I want to never get rejected. I want to never, I'm like, good luck. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When you find it out, let me know. I'll buy your program. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right. I want to get that guy's program who just figured out the matrix and is just like, I know how to do kung fu without learning any kung fu.
Right, exactly.
just load up a program in their head, like, I can fuck shit up.
Right.
No, man, no. But that takes out, like, all the things, like, I listened to a lot of Alan Watts, and he was like, yeah, he's brilliant. And he's like, if you knew the outcome,
Mm-hmm.
the game wouldn't be worth the candle. Right.
Exactly.
And it's like, if you sat down to a game of chess and it's like we sat down and I knew I was going to beat you, like
Right.
100%, that
Right.
might be fun, like 2 or 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get bored.
Right. Right.
All the complexity would be gone. All the
Mm-hmm.
fun would be gone. The
Right.
challenge, the fear of loss would be gone,
Mm-hmm.
sure, but everything else would be gone too.
Right.
It's like,
Right.
really, that's how you want to get laid, guys?
Exactly. Because then it's like, what's the point? They're like part of what makes you appreciate when things happen is because there's other things that don't happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like I always tell people, part of the reason why I appreciate when you get with a woman is because you're getting rejected by other women. You know what I'm saying? So you're like, and so you appreciate that situation. You know what I'm saying? It's like it goes hand in hand. You know what I mean?
Well, in the sex at the ends,
Mm.
that's just kind of the maraschino where these guys are making the goal.
Right.
And if you're comfortable in that space in between approach and sex, okay,
Mm.
if you're comfortable in that zone, there's so much fun that can be had.
Right.
You just chill out.
Mm.
Like, just
Right.
stop pressuring that whole situation. And guys, you can have a lot of fun in that area where there is a lot of gray. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of complexity, there's a lot of nuance, and you can appreciate all the little things that can come up, even the things that go wrong.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And because you can see more and understand more and not get down on yourself. You're like, oh, I fucked up. Like, nah,
Right.
you just learned more,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's like you got to get out of these goal-oriented achievement sort of things.
Right.
But I can understand if you're not having sex, you never have been with a woman before, it
Mm.
just becomes this obsessive, like almost poisonous obsession. Like it
Mm-hmm.
must get done at
Right.
all costs.
I know.
And
Because it's like life or death at that point. You know what I'm saying? For a lot of guys. It's terrible.
yeah, I could sympathize though. I mean,
Mm.
it's got to be a really difficult thing to live with because they know, especially at this point, that men who have experience are
Mm.
more desirable.
Right. Exactly.
And they're like looking at themselves, being like, oh, fuck, I don't have experience and I want experience, but then
Mm.
wanting it makes me undesirable.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's kind of fucked up, right?
Right.
But if they
Right.
don't do anything, they just get nothing done.
Mm.
It's kind of real, like fucked up catch-22. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying?
Right. That's so true.
Yeah, yeah. Because like when you get there, you don't care as much.
Right. Mm. And then when you're
There's
not,
no,
you're like, I need it so bad. And then when you feel like when you have that I need it so bad energy, you don't get it. It's weird. You know?
yeah, yep, absolutely, absolutely, man. Like, so Locario, it was really good, kind of having you on the show for a
Yeah.
little while,
Appreciate it.
and I think that I need to have you on again later on in the year because there's just this conversation has just too much going on in it.
Right.
But if people want to know more about what you do and get a little bit more information on these topics, let them know where they can find that information best.
Yeah, so you guys can definitely check out my main site, which is Mr.Locario.com. That's MRLOCARIO.com. And also my other site, badboymembership.com. That's where I have my membership program. Bad Boy Membership is where you get 45 through 90-minute audio and video dating advice tutorials every month. So every month I drop a new dating advice tutorial on badboymembership.com. So you can sign up there. Also, just reach me on Instagram at real Mr. Locario, so you can check me out there. You know what I'm saying? So all those things.
Fantastic.
Again,
And do you do one-on-ones? Do you do
yeah,
one-on-one coaching with people?
I also do that too. So if you go to MrLocario.com, you can sign up. I have 30-minute sessions, and I have other like hour sessions that you can jump on too. So if you want to get the like one-on-one coaching, you know what I'm saying, I do that too. So it could be Skype, phone, whatever. And right now, since this whole like the whole COVID shit was going on, we put a hold on the the like actual in-person stuff. So, but we're gonna be bringing that back, you know, pretty soon. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
But
that's
if we
good.
get like a Skype call and all that, we can make that happen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because it's real beneficial, I think, to have a coach out with you,
Right.
and you can say, okay, go talk to that girl over there,
Mhm.
and you can kind of get that immediate feedback.
Right.
And that's absolutely much more beneficial than trying to recount things through an email or a phone call of what happened.
Right.
And so having somebody with you in real time
Mhm.
is absolutely beneficial if you know you're one of those people that needs that sort of thing. So, you know,
Right.
folks, if you need that one-on-one with your dating,
Mhm.
you know, hit up Mr. Locario, and he can absolutely help you out. And did you mention your Instagram is the same handle? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's real Mr. Locario. So you can find me on there on Instagram.
Great. Fantastic, dude. All right. Well, you know, it was again, like I said, it was great having you on, and I've been a fan of your work for quite some time. So this is really awesome being able to see you.
Man. Yeah, appreciate you having me, man. Real talk. Appreciate you.
All right, cool. All right, I'll let you know when it hits the waves.
All right, man. I'm holler at you, man.
All right, peace.
Peace.
This is the Forge Project. Thank you for listening, and we're out.